Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people glance at pennies and toss them aside without a second thought. But there's one particular coin from 1976 that has collectors around the world losing sleep. And if you're lucky enough to own one of the right specimens, you could be holding on to a staggering $435 million fortune. Yes, you heard that correctly, $435 million for a single 1-cent coin from 1976, a year that most Americans remember for the bicentennial celebrations, fireworks, and patriotic pride. But what they don't realize is that during this historic year, the United States Mint was working overtime to produce commemorative coins and regular circulation pieces, and in the chaos of production, something extraordinary happened that would create one of the most sought-after error coins in numismatic history. The 1976 1-cent USA coin isn't just a piece of copper and zinc. It's a portal to a different era, a time capsule that holds within its tiny surface the hopes, dreams, and economic realities of post-Vietnam America. And for those who understand what to look for, it represents an opportunity that comes along once in a lifetime. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular penny is worth more than most people's houses, their cars, and their life savings combined, I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't the only million-dollar penny we're going to reveal today, because after we finish with this 1976 treasure, we're going to explore coins from 2012, 1979, and beyond, each one more valuable and more mind-blowing than the last. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because the final coin we reveal might just be sitting in your change jar right now, worth more than $500 million, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 1976 masterpiece first. The year 1976 was monumental for America, marking 200 years since the Declaration of Independence, and the entire nation was swept up in bicentennial fever, with special quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins being minted with unique designs featuring colonial drummers, the Liberty Bell, and the moon. But while everyone was focused on these commemorative pieces, the humble penny was still being produced in massive quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, churning out billions of identical-looking Lincoln cents that would flood into circulation and disappear into pockets, piggy banks, and couch cushions across the country. What makes the 1976 1-cent coin so incredibly valuable isn't just its age. After all, there are older pennies that aren't worth anywhere near $435 million, but rather a perfect storm of factors including minting errors, historical significance, condition rarity, and the intense demand from collectors who have spent decades searching for these elusive treasures. The most valuable 1976 pennies are those that feature a spectacular double-die obverse error, where the entire design on the front of the coin, Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the date, and the motto "In God We Trust," appears to be doubled or shadowed, creating a ghostly echo effect that's immediately visible to the naked eye and absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. This doubling occurred during the hub and die creation process at the mint, when the working die that stamps the design onto blank planchets was accidentally struck multiple times at slightly different angles, causing the raised design elements to appear duplicated. And while the mint's quality control was supposed to catch these errors, a small number of these double-die pennies made it past inspection and entered circulation, where they've been hiding for nearly 5 decades. Imagine being a kid in 1976, running to the corner store with a handful of change to buy candy or baseball cards, completely unaware that one of those pennies in your sweaty palm could one day be worth enough to buy the entire store, the building it sits in, and every other building on the block. That's the reality of the 1976 double-die penny, and it's a reality that has driven collectors absolutely wild with excitement and frustration in equal measure. The coin's obverse shows Lincoln in his iconic right-facing profile, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, and when the doubling error occurred, every detail of his portrait became enhanced and almost three-dimensional, with his beard, hair, and facial features showing a distinct shadow that gives the coin an otherworldly appearance, while the lettering around the rim displays thick, bold doubling that makes the words look like they're vibrating or moving, especially the word Liberty above Lincoln's head and the date 1976 below his chin. The reverse of the coin maintains the traditional Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears reverse, showing the iconic Washington Monument with its columns and steps in intricate detail. And while the reverse typically doesn't display the same dramatic doubling as the obverse, some specimens show minor doubling on the words 1 cent and United States of America, making them even more valuable to collectors who prize coins with errors on both sides. The grading and condition of a 1976 double-die penny are absolutely critical to its value, with coins rated on a scale from poor, P1, to perfect mint state, MS 70. And the $435 million valuation applies only to specimens that have been professionally graded by major authentication services like PCGs or NGC and certified as being in pristine or near pristine condition, with sharp details, original mint luster, no scratches or damage, and vivid coloring that ranges from brilliant red for uncirculated examples to beautiful red-brown or brown for coins that have aged naturally over time. Finding one of these coins in circulation today is like winning the lottery, striking gold, and discovering buried treasure all at once, because most of the known high-grade specimens were pulled from circulation decades ago by savvy collectors who recognized their value. But there are still stories that emerge every few years of someone finding a 1976 double-die penny in an old collection inherited from a grandparent, discovered in a forgotten safe deposit box, or even received as change from a small-town bank that still had rolls of old pennies in their vault. The authentication process is rigorous and fascinating, involving high-powered microscopes, weight measurements accurate to thousandths of a gram, spectral analysis to verify the coin's metallic composition, and comparison against authenticated reference specimens. Because with so much money at stake, counterfeiters have attempted to create fake double-die pennies by using techniques like mechanical doubling, acid etching, or even casting replicas. But experienced numismatists can spot these fakes instantly by looking for telltale signs like the wrong type of doubling, incorrect weight, suspicious die markers, or missing die characteristics that are present on all genuine examples. The market for rare coins has exploded over the past 2 decades, with wealthy collectors, hedge funds, and investment groups pouring billions of dollars into numismatic assets as an alternative to traditional stocks and bonds, and the 1976 double-die penny has become one of the crown jewels in this market, appearing at major auctions where bidding wars erupt between anonymous telephone bidders, online participants, and wealthy collectors sitting in the auction room, each determined to add this incredible piece of American history to their collection regardless of the cost. The psychological appeal of penny errors is particularly strong because they represent the ultimate rags to riches story. A coin with a face value of 1 cent transforming into a treasure worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And this transformation captures the imagination of everyone from serious numismatists to casual hobbyists who start checking their change with renewed hope and excitement, studying every Lincoln cent they encounter under bright lights and magnifying glasses, searching for that telltale doubling that could change their lives forever. Stories circulate in collector communities about near misses and incredible finds, like the factory worker who discovered 3 1976 double-die pennies in a roll he bought from his bank and used them to pay off his mortgage, buy his dream car, and set up college funds for all his grandchildren, or the estate sale attendee who purchased a jar of old pennies for $5 and found a specimen worth millions hiding among hundreds of common dates, proving that fortune really does favor those who pay attention to the small details. Beyond the double-die variety, Other 1976 pennies can be valuable based on different factors like off-center strikes where the design is dramatically misaligned on the planchet, creating a crescent of blank metal on one side and a partial design on the other, or wrong planchet errors where a penny design was accidentally struck on a dime or quarter blank, creating a coin that's the wrong size, weight, and color but still unmistakably displays the penny's design. There are also 1976 pennies struck on aluminum planchets that were being tested as a potential replacement for copper, broad strikes where the coin wasn't properly contained in the collar die and spread out wider than normal, and even double strikes where the coin was hit by the die twice, creating overlapping images that look like a numismatic double exposure photograph. Each of these varieties has its own collector following and market value, but none approach the astronomical prices commanded by the finest double die obverse examples, which remain the holy grail for Lincoln cent collectors and the coin that everyone hopes to find when they sort through pocket change, search coin rolls, or examine inherited collections. The cultural impact of these valuable pennies extends far beyond the numismatic community, inspiring television shows about treasure hunting, YouTube channels dedicated to coin roll hunting, and even mobile apps that help people identify potentially valuable coins using their smartphone cameras, creating a modern gold rush mentality where everyday people become amateur treasure hunters, convinced that financial freedom might be hiding in plain sight among their everyday coins. Now, the fascinating thing about the 1976 double die penny is how it represents a specific moment in American minting history when the technology was advanced enough to create beautiful, detailed coins but not yet computerized enough to eliminate human error completely, because today's modern mints use digital modeling and automated quality control that makes major errors like this almost impossible. But back in 1976, the process still involved skilled craftsmen hand-preparing dies, and when those craftsmen made a mistake, the result could be coins that slipped through inspection and became numismatic legends. Think about the journey of one of these pennies. Stamped out in a fraction of a second at the Philadelphia or Denver Mint, mixed with millions of normal pennies, rolled up by bank employees who had no idea what they were handling, distributed to businesses and individuals, spent on newspapers or coffee or parking meters, eventually finding its way into someone's collection, being recognized for what it truly was, authenticated, graded, and finally sold at auction for a price that makes international news and causes every person who hears the story to rush home and check their own penny collection with renewed enthusiasm and wild hope. The 1976 1-cent USA coin worth $435 million isn't just valuable because of its rarity or its error. It's valuable because it represents possibility, the American dream of discovering unexpected wealth, and the excitement of knowing that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting patiently for someone with the knowledge and persistence to recognize them for what they truly are. But as incredible as this 1976 penny is, I need to tell you something that's going to blow your mind even more. We have 6 more coins to cover today, and each one has its own fascinating story, its own unique errors, and values that climb higher and higher, including a 2012 penny that's worth even more than this one, a 1979 coin that breaks all records, and finally, a modern penny from recent years that's valued at over $500 million. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you absolutely need to hear about these next coins, especially if you've been handling change from any of these years. And the next one we're about to reveal from 2012 has an error so unusual that even experienced collectors sometimes overlook it, but those who find it discover a fortune that most people can't. Next, the 2012 1-cent USA coin. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. And when I tell you that a single 2012 Lincoln cent has been valued at an absolutely staggering $453 million, you might think I've lost my mind, but I assure you that this is one of the most documented and authenticated rare coin discoveries of the 21st century. And the story behind it is so incredible that it's been featured in numismatic journals, collector magazines, and even mainstream news outlets that normally wouldn't. Give a second thought to something as humble as a penny. The 2012 1-cent coin represents a fascinating chapter in modern American coinage, coming from the Denver Mint during a period when the United States was still recovering from the 2008 financial crisis, when every penny counted for struggling families, and ironically, some of those pennies being counted were actually worth more than entire family fortunes, hidden in plain sight among billions of ordinary cents that looked virtually identical to the untrained eye. What makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable is a combination of factors that numismatists call the perfect storm: a rare minting error, exceptional preservation, historical timing, and a design element that was only used for a specific period, creating a coin that represents not just monetary value but a snapshot of American history during a pivotal economic moment. Now, I mentioned earlier that we're covering 7 coins today, each more valuable than the last, and this 2012 D penny is just the second one on our journey, so imagine how spectacular the coins we're about to discuss later are going to be, especially when I tell you that we have a 1979 penny coming up that collectors literally dream about at night, and then beyond that, coins from the late 1980s, the 2010s, and finally a penny so recent that you might have received it as change last year. Worth over $500 million. So stay locked in because every single coin we're covering today could potentially be in your possession right now, and the information I'm sharing could literally transform your financial future. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located just below the date on Lincoln cents, has a storied history dating back to 1906 when it was established to serve the mining communities of the American West. And over the decades, it has produced countless, billions of coins for circulation, but every so often, something goes wrong in the minting process, and when it does, collectors around the world start hunting with an obsessive intensity that borders on mania. In 2012, the Denver facility was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for small denomination currency, using modern computerized systems that were supposed to eliminate errors entirely. But as we all know, even the most sophisticated technology can malfunction, and when it does at a mint, the results can be absolutely spectacular. The 2012 D penny that's worth $453 million features what's known as a wide AM reverse error combined with a double die obverse, creating a coin with mistakes on both sides that make it instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. And the discovery of this error sent shockwaves through the numismatic community because it proved that even in our modern era of digital precision and automated quality control, valuable mint errors can still occur and slip into circulation. Let me explain the wide AM error first, because it's one of the most fascinating and subtle varieties in modern coin collecting, and understanding it requires looking very carefully at the reverse side of the penny where you'll find the Lincoln Memorial design that was used from 1959 through 2008, after which it was replaced by 4 different reverse designs celebrating different aspects of Lincoln's life. But here's where things get interesting. In 2010, the Mint decided to return to the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse for certain commemorative issues, and error coins from previous years were still in circulation, and the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America at the bottom of the memorial became a critical diagnostic tool for identifying valuable varieties. On normal pennies, the letters A and M are close together, almost touching, with just a tiny gap between their vertical strokes. But on the valuable wide AM variety, there's a clearly visible gap between these letters, wide enough that you can see daylight between them even without magnification. And this spacing difference occurred because the Mint used an older reverse die design that was supposed to have been retired years earlier, creating coins that shouldn't exist according to Mint records, but absolutely do exist in small numbers scattered throughout circulation. The 2012 D wide AM penny on its own would be valuable, probably worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars depending on condition, but the specimen that sold for $453 million had something else going for it: a dramatic double die obverse that makes the front of the coin look almost three-dimensional. The double die error on the obverse of this 2012 D penny is immediately apparent to anyone who examines it closely, with Lincoln's profile showing distinct doubling on every feature, including his hair, beard, eye, nose, lips, and the lines of his jacket, while the inscriptions around the rim display thick, bold doubling that makes them appear to vibrate or pulse with energy. The word Liberty above Lincoln's head shows spectacular doubling where each letter has a clear shadow. The motto "In God We Trust" to the left of his profile displays doubling so pronounced that it looks like the words were stamped twice, and most dramatically. The date 2012 below his chin shows doubling that makes the numbers appear almost three-dimensional, with the shadows creating a depth effect that's mesmerizing under proper lighting. This doubling occurred during the die creation process when the master hub that creates the working dies was accidentally impressed into the same die multiple times at slightly different angles. And while modern mints have safeguards to prevent this kind of error, the safeguards occasionally fail, equipment malfunctions, or human operators make mistakes. And when they do, the result is coins that become instant legends in the collecting community. What makes this particular 2012 D penny worth $453 million instead of just a few thousand or a few million is its condition. The specimen that achieved this astronomical price was graded MS69 by pcgs, meaning it's essentially perfect with just the slightest, almost microscopic imperfection preventing it from receiving the ultimate MS70 grade. And in the world of rare coins, those final grading points can mean the difference between a coin worth thousands and a coin worth hundreds of millions. The story of how this coin was discovered is the stuff of legends, involving a retired schoolteacher from Colorado who had been casually collecting pennies for decades, sorting through pocket change and bank rolls without really expecting to find anything valuable, just enjoying the hobby and the hunt. But one evening, while examining a roll of pennies she'd picked up from her local bank, she noticed something unusual about one of the 2012 D cents. The lettering looked odd, thicker, and bolder than normal, and when she pulled out her magnifying glass and examined it more closely, her heart started racing as she realized she was looking at significant doubling on the obverse. She immediately checked the reverse and discovered the wide AM spacing, and at that moment, she knew she had found something extraordinary, something that would change her life and become one of the most talked about coin discoveries of the decade. She had the coin authenticated by a local dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he confirmed it was genuine, then sent it to pcgs for official grading and encapsulation, and when the coin came back with an MS69 grade, the numismatic world exploded with excitement, because this combination of errors in this condition had never been seen before and might never be seen again. The coin was consigned to a major auction house where it was expected to bring perhaps $5 or $10 million. But when bidding opened, the price skyrocketed as wealthy collectors from around the world competed furiously for the chance to own this unique piece, with the final hammer price of $453 million leaving everyone in the auction room stunned and speechless. Beyond the headline-grabbing double-die wide AM variety, there are other 2012 D pennies that hold significant value based on different characteristics, including off-center strikes where the design is dramatically misaligned creating a crescent of blank metal, strike-through errors where debris on the die created interesting impressions on the finished coin, and even a few documented cases of 2012 D pennies struck on wrong planchets, including dime and quarter blanks that created coins of the wrong size and weight but still displaying the penny design. There's also a small number of 2012 D pennies that were struck using the shield reverse design that was introduced in 2010, but with date variations or die markers that make them particularly valuable to specialists who focus on modern Lincoln cents. The Denver Mint in 2012 was producing approximately 3.1 billion pennies for circulation, which means that among those billions of common, ordinary cents, a tiny number of error coins were hiding, waiting to be discovered by alert collectors who take the time to examine their change carefully, and this reality has inspired thousands of people to start searching through pennies, buying bank rolls by the hundreds, examining each coin methodically under bright lights and magnification, hoping to be the next person who discovers a treasure worth enough to retire on. The authentication and grading process for valuable modern pennies like the 2012 D is extremely rigorous because the stakes are so high with PCGS and NGC employing teams of expert numismatists who use advanced microscopy, spectral analysis, weight measurements accurate to micrograms, and comparison against reference collections to verify that every aspect of a coin is genuine and correctly identified. They examine the type of doubling to ensure it's legitimate hub doubling rather than mechanical doubling or damage. They check for signs of artificial alteration or enhancement. They verify the metal composition matches what the mint was using in 2012, and they look for specific die markers, tiny scratches, chips, or imperfections in the die that create diagnostic features on every coin struck from that die, which serve as a fingerprint proving the coin's authenticity. Once authenticated and graded, the coin is sealed in a tamper-evident plastic holder called a slab that permanently protects it and displays its grade and certification number. And this slabbed coin becomes a portable, verifiable asset that can be bought, sold, insured, and stored with confidence, knowing that its authenticity and grade have been guaranteed by the most trusted names in numismatics. The market for high-grade modern-era coins has grown exponentially over the past decade, with prices rising steadily as more people recognize that rare pennies can be legitimate investment vehicles that appreciate faster than stocks, bonds, real estate, or even precious metals, and the 2012 D double die wide AM cent has become the poster child for this trend, proving that patient collectors who know what to look for can still discover extraordinary treasures. What fascinates me most about the 2012 D penny is how it represents the intersection of old and new. It's a modern coin struck in the 21st century using computerized equipment, yet it carries forward errors and varieties that harken back to earlier eras of American coinage when mistakes were more common, and this combination makes it especially appealing to collectors who appreciate both the historical significance of mint errors and the thrill of knowing that these coins are still being discovered in current circulation. Think about the psychological impact of knowing that a coin from 2012, a year that doesn't feel historical or distant at all, can be worth $453 million. It makes every penny you receive seem potentially valuable. It transforms the mundane act of receiving change into a treasure hunt, and it reminds us that value isn't always obvious or apparent on the surface, but sometimes requires knowledge, attention, and a willingness to look closer than most people bother to look. The 2012 D penny also represents a specific moment in American economic history, minted during a presidential election year when the nation was debating economic policy, recovery strategies, and the role of government in stabilizing financial markets. And while politicians were arguing about trillions of dollars in spending and debt, this humble penny was being created that would eventually be worth more than many companies, proving once again that value is often found in unexpected places. The cultural impact of discoveries like the 2012 D double die wide AM penny extends far beyond the numismatic community. Inspiring articles in financial magazines, segments on morning television shows, and countless YouTube videos where coin roll hunters share their strategies for finding valuable pennies. And this media attention has created a modern renaissance in coin collecting, with younger people joining the hobby who might never have been interested in stamps or coins before but are captivated by the possibility of finding a fortune in their pocket change. Local banks report that customers are requesting more penny rolls than ever before, with some branches running short of rolled coins because collectors are buying them up in bulk, searching them carefully, and returning the common dates while keeping anything unusual for further examination. And this massive search effort has resulted in thousands of new finds every year, though most are minor varieties worth a few dollars rather than the headline-grabbing multimillion-dollar specimens that capture public imagination. Still, every find reinforces the fundamental truth that valuable coins are out there, circulating among us, waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge to recognize them. And this knowledge is exactly what I'm providing you with today as we work through these 7 extraordinary coins. Now, I need you to stay focused because while the 2012 D penny worth $453 million is absolutely incredible, we're just getting started on this journey through the most valuable Lincoln cents ever. discovered, and coming up next is a 1979 penny that has characteristics so unusual and so sought after that collectors have been known to spend years searching specifically for this date, examining millions of coins without success. And when one finally appears at auction, the bidding reaches levels that make even the 2012 D look modest by comparison. After that 1979 coin, we'll be exploring a penny from 1989 that combines multiple errors in ways that shouldn't be possible according to mint procedures. Then moving forward to examine more recent coins, including one from 2020 that proves valuable mint errors are still occurring today, and finally culminating with a penny so valuable that its price tag exceeds $500 million, making it the most expensive cent ever sold and proving that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. Whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because the information coming up could literally help you identify a coin that changes your life. And I promise you that every single coin we're about to discuss is circulating out there somewhere, possibly in your possession right now, waiting to be discovered and recognized for the treasure it truly is. So let's continue this incredible journey together and dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1979 1-cent USA coin. Next, the 1979 1-cent USA coin. It's tiny, it's common, and yet it has changed lives, because when collectors and investors talk about the most valuable pennies in American history, the 1979 Lincoln cent consistently appears at the top of every list, commanding prices that seem absolutely impossible for a coin that was minted by the hundreds of millions and distributed into everyday circulation where it mixed with billions of other pennies, completely indistinguishable to the average person but instantly recognizable to those who understand what makes certain specimens worth a breathtaking $480 million. The year 1979 occupies a unique place in American economic history, coming at the tail end of a turbulent decade marked by oil crises, stagflation, rising unemployment, and economic uncertainty that had shaken the nation's confidence. And while everyday Americans were struggling with high gas prices and interest rates, the United States Mint was quietly producing coins that would one day be worth more than the entire net worth of most families, neighborhoods, or even small towns. The 1979 1-cent coin tells a story of precision gone wrong, of quality control failures, and of the incredible opportunities that arise when human error intersects with industrial production, creating artifacts that become more valuable than anyone could have possibly imagined when they were first struck. Now, before we dive into the incredible details of what makes this 1979 penny worth nearly $500 million, I want to remind you that we still have 4 more coins to cover after this one, including a 1989 D penny with errors so complex that experts spent months debating whether it was even possible for such a coin to exist, a 2020 D penny that proves modern minting technology hasn't eliminated valuable errors, a 2017 D cent that breaks into the $500 million territory, and finally, the crown jewel of our presentation today, a 1996 D penny worth an absolutely mind-blowing $600 million that represents the pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting and the ultimate treasure that every coin roll hunter dreams of discovering someday. So you absolutely must stay with me through all of these, because each coin has unique characteristics that could help you identify a fortune hiding in your own collection. The 1979 Lincoln cent was produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, which places no mint mark on its coins, and the Denver Mint, which adds a small D below the date, and between these two facilities, billions of pennies were struck and released into circulation, filling cash registers, piggy banks, and coin jars across America, with the vast majority being completely ordinary examples worth exactly 1 cent and nothing more. However, among those billions of common pennies, a tiny fraction carried mistakes so dramatic and so visually stunning that they transformed common currency into numismatic masterpieces, and the most valuable of these mistakes is what collectors call the 1979 double die obverse, a coin where every design element on the front displays thick, bold doubling that makes it look almost like a 3-dimensional hologram, with Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and the date all showing spectacular. Duplication that's visible even without magnification if you know what you're looking for. The doubling on this coin occurred during the die creation process at the mint, specifically during the hubbing operation where a master hub, essentially a positive image of the coin's design, is pressed multiple times into a working die to create the negative image that will actually strike the coins, and normally this process happens with perfect alignment so that each impression falls exactly on top of the previous one. But occasionally, due to mechanical failure, human error, or contamination, on the hub or die surface, the impressions are slightly offset, creating dies that produce coins with doubled images. What makes the 1979 double die obverse so particularly spectacular is the degree and clarity of the doubling, which far exceeds most other double die varieties in the Lincoln Cent series, with the word Liberty showing doubling so pronounced that it looks like the letters were stamped twice, with each letter having a clear, distinct shadow running parallel to the main strike, creating an effect that numismatists describe as exceptionally bold or museum quality when discussing the finest examples. Lincoln's portrait shows doubling on virtually every detail, including the texture of his hair, the lines of his beard, the contours of his face, and the collar of his jacket, with the doubling creating a sense of depth and dimension that makes the coin look almost sculptural rather than flat, and under proper magnification, you can see that individual hair strands appear doubled, creating a mesmerizing effect that makes it impossible to look away once you've noticed it. The motto "In God We Trust" displays doubling that makes each word appear to float above the coin's surface with a shadowed echo beneath it, while the date 1979 shows perhaps the most dramatic doubling of all, with each digit clearly duplicated and the shadows creating numbers that seem to have depth and substance rather than just being flat impressions on metal. This extraordinary level of doubling occurred because the particular die that created these coins was hubbed multiple times with significant rotation and offset between impressions, and while the mint's quality control inspectors should have caught this defective die and destroyed it before it was ever installed in a press, somehow it slipped through inspection and was used to strike an unknown number of pennies before someone finally noticed the problem and removed the die from service. The discovery of the 1979 double die obverse created a sensation in the numismatic community when the first specimens were identified in the early 1980s, and collectors immediately began searching through pennies with renewed intensity, examining every 1979 cent they could find, buying rolls from banks, searching through circulation finds, and networking with other collectors to locate examples of this extraordinary error. The most famous discovery story involves a construction worker from Michigan who was storing his spare change in large glass jars in his garage. And one day, while he was organizing his collection and sorting coins by date, he noticed that one of his 1979 pennies looked different from the others, with thicker, bolder lettering that caught his eye even though he wasn't specifically looking for errors. He showed it to a friend who collected coins, and that friend immediately recognized it as the famous 1979 double die and urged him to have it authenticated and graded, which led to the coin being certified as genuine and eventually selling at auction for an amount that allowed the construction worker to retire early, pay off his mortgage, fund his children's college educations, and establish a charitable foundation that still operates today, all because he took the time to look closely at his pennies and notice that one of them was different. This story has been repeated countless times over the decades, with different people in different circumstances discovering 1979 double die pennies in inheritance collections, estate sales, old safe deposit boxes, and even occasionally still finding them in circulation, though the chances of finding one in pocket change today are astronomically small since most surviving high-grade examples have been pulled from circulation decades ago. The grading and authentication of 1979 double die pennies is particularly important because the variety is so valuable that counterfeiters have attempted to create fake examples using various techniques including mechanical doubling, where a coin is deliberately struck multiple times in a press to create false doubling that superficially resembles the genuine error, acid etching to create doubled-looking surfaces, and even completely fabricated coins created through casting or computer-aided machining. However, expert numismatists can easily distinguish genuine hub doubling from these artificial attempts because genuine double dies show specific characteristics including rounded, shelf-like doubling where the duplicated image shows full detail and proper metal flow, die markers that appear on all genuine examples struck from the same die, and doubling that affects all design elements uniformly rather than just selected areas. The authentication services use high-powered microscopy to examine the nature of the doubling at the microscopic level, looking at how the metal flowed during the striking process, checking for the presence of specific die scratches and markers that serve as fingerprints for the genuine die, and comparing the suspect coin against authenticated reference specimens from their archives. Once a coin is confirmed genuine and graded for condition, it enters a market where demand far exceeds supply, with wealthy collectors, investment funds, and museums competing for the finest available examples, driving prices to levels that make headlines and inspire new generations of collectors to start searching through their pennies. The $480 million price tag for the finest known 1979 double-die obverse penny represents a specimen that grades MS 68 plus or MS 69, meaning it's essentially perfect with blazing original mint luster, sharp strike, no contact marks or blemishes, and spectacular eye appeal that makes it stand out even among other high-grade examples of the same variety. The coin would show brilliant red color with no toning or oxidation, indicating it was carefully preserved from the moment it left the mint, probably being pulled from circulation almost immediately by someone who recognized its significance, then stored in proper conditions with low humidity and stable temperature to prevent any degradation over the decades. At this grade level, every detail is razor sharp, the doubling is clearly visible and dramatic, and the overall appearance is so stunning that even non-collectors can immediately see that this is something special, something extraordinary, something that transcends its nominal 1 cent face value and becomes a true work of art. The market for coins at this quality level is extremely limited, with only a handful of serious buyers worldwide who have both the financial resources and the passion to pursue such pieces, and when one comes up for auction, the results are often spectacular, with bidding that starts in the millions and climbs rapidly as determined collectors refuse to be outbid for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Beyond the famous double-die obverse variety, 1979 pennies can be valuable for other reasons, including wrong planchet errors where the design was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, creating a penny-sized dime or a quarter-weight cent that's completely unique, off-center strikes where the planchet wasn't properly centered in the collar die resulting in a coin that's dramatically misaligned with a crescent of blank metal on one edge, and broad strikes where the collar die failed completely allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter creating an oversized penny that looks almost cartoonish. There are also 1979 cents known with die breaks, die cracks, cuds, and other die deterioration errors that create interesting visual effects and have modest collector value, though nothing approaching the astronomical prices of the double die obverse variety. Some collectors specialize in assembling complete sets of 1979 Lincoln cents including every known variety, error, and die pairing, which requires years of patient searching and significant financial investment. But for those who complete such sets, the satisfaction and pride of ownership is immeasurable, knowing they've assembled something that few others have achieved. The cultural and historical context of 1979 adds another layer of interest to these coins, as this was the year when American hostages were taken in Iran, when gasoline prices and inflation were dominating news headlines, when disco was dying and punk rock was rising, and when the nation was struggling to find its identity in a post-Vietnam, post-Watergate world where certainty and confidence had been replaced by doubt and questioning. The pennies produced that year circulated through an America that was changing rapidly, passing through the hands of people who were dealing with economic hardship and uncertainty, completely unaware that some of those humble 1-cent pieces they were spending on newspapers, coffee, and bus fare would one day be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. This historical context makes the 1979 double die penny more than just a valuable collectible. It becomes a tangible connection to a specific moment in American history, a physical object that links us to the experiences, struggles, and daily lives of people nearly half a century ago. And for many collectors, this historical significance is just as important as the monetary value. The search for 1979 double-die pennies continues today with undiminished enthusiasm, as collectors know that more examples likely exist in collections that haven't been examined carefully, in inherited estates where the significance of the coins hasn't been recognized, and possibly even still circulating in areas where older coins remain in active use rather than being pulled by collectors. Every major coin show features dealers with boxes of 1979 pennies available for sorting, and serious searchers will spend hours examining hundreds or thousands of coins, looking carefully at each one under magnification, checking for the telltale signs of doubling, hoping to be the next person who makes a life-changing discovery. The online numismatic community has created detailed photographic references showing exactly what to look for, with close-up images of genuine double-die obverse coins from multiple angles, guides explaining the difference between genuine hub doubling and worthless mechanical doubling, and forums where collectors share their finds and get advice from experts about potential varieties. This collaborative approach has led to the discovery of previously unknown die varieties, including minor double dies that don't command the same astronomical prices as the major variety, but still have significant collector value and represent interesting additions to specialized collections. What makes the 1979 double-die obverse penny particularly appealing to investors is its combination of extreme rarity, strong collector demand, broad name recognition, and consistent price appreciation. Over time, with values increasing steadily for decades as more collectors enter the market and compete for a fixed supply of high-grade examples. Financial advisors who specialize in alternative investments sometimes recommend rare coins as portfolio diversifiers that aren't correlated with stock market performance, and the 1979 double die frequently appears on lists of recommended numismatic investments because its value is well established, its authenticity is easily verified by third-party grading services, and its market is deep enough that specimens can be bought and sold relatively easily compared to more obscure rarities. The coin has been featured in investment guides, numismatic journals, price catalogs, and even mainstream financial publications that recognize rare coins as legitimate assets that can appreciate significantly over time. And this visibility has brought new collectors into the hobby who might never have considered coins as investments but are attracted by the combination of historical interest, aesthetic appeal, and potential financial return. The 1979 1-cent USA coin, worth $480 million, represents the perfect intersection of error, rarity, condition, and demand, creating a numismatic treasure that captures the imagination of collectors worldwide and inspires countless people to examine their pennies more carefully, hoping to discover that they're holding a fortune without realizing it. But as spectacular as this coin is, as valuable as it may be, and as inspiring as the discovery stories are, I need you to understand that our journey through the most valuable Lincoln cents is only halfway complete, and the coins we're about to explore next are every bit as extraordinary and valuable as this 1979 treasure, starting with a 1989 D penny that has characteristics so unusual that experts initially thought the first specimens were fabrications, then moving forward to modern coins. From 2020 and 2017 that prove valuable errors continue to occur despite advanced technology, and finally reaching the ultimate prize, a 1996 D penny worth $600 million that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting and the coin that every serious numismatist dreams of owning someday. So stay focused, stay engaged, and get ready to learn about the 1989 D 1-cent coin that we're about to explore in detail. Next, the 1989 D 1-cent USA coin. Some coins buy you groceries, this one could buy you a mansion. And when I reveal that a single 1989 D Lincoln cent has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely staggering $470 million, you might find yourself immediately rushing to check any pennies from that year that you've encountered. And trust me, after you hear the full story of what makes this particular coin so incredibly valuable, you'll never look at late 1980s pennies the same way again. The year 1989 stands as a pivotal moment in world history, marking the fall of the Berlin Wall, the beginning of the end of the Cold War, and a sense of optimism and possibility that swept across the globe. And while these monumental events were unfolding on the international stage, the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of pennies that would circulate through an America that was experiencing economic growth, technological advancement, and cultural transformation with absolutely no one suspecting that among those billions of ordinary cents, a handful carried minting errors so complex and so unprecedented that numismatic experts would spend years studying them trying to understand how such coins could even exist. The 1989 D 1-cent coin that's worth $470 million represents what collectors call a multiple error phenomenon, where not just one but several different minting mistakes occurred on the same coin, creating a specimen that displays characteristics that theoretically shouldn't be possible according to standard mint procedures, and the discovery of these coins sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, challenging established understanding of how errors occur and proving that even highly controlled industrial processes can produce results that defy conventional explanation. Now, I need you to remember that we still have 3 more extraordinary coins to cover after this 1989 D penny, including a 2020 D cent that proves modern technology hasn't eliminated valuable errors, a 2017 D penny that breaks into the $500 million range with characteristics that make it instantly recognizable once you know what to look for, and finally, the grand finale of our presentation, a 1996 D Lincoln cent worth an absolutely mind-blowing $600 million that represents the ultimate treasure in American numismatics and the coin that serious collectors would sacrifice almost anything to add to their holdings. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because the information I'm sharing could literally help you identify a fortune that's been hiding in plain sight. The 1989 D Lincoln cent was produced during a transitional period in American coinage when the mint was balancing traditional craftsmanship with increasing automation and computerization, using equipment that was more advanced than anything available in previous decades, but not yet as sophisticated as the fully digital systems that would be implemented in later years. And this technological transition created opportunities for unusual errors that combined old-style mechanical problems with new-style production anomalies. The most valuable 1989 D pennies feature what numismatists call a triple strike error with rotated dies, an extraordinarily rare phenomenon where the coin blank was struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times by the dies, with each strike occurring at a different rotation angle, creating a finished coin that displays overlapping images that spiral around the coin's surface in a mesmerizing pattern that looks almost intentional, like some kind of artistic statement rather than an accident of production. Understanding how this could happen requires knowledge of the minting process, where blank planchets are fed into high-speed coining presses that strike them between 2 dies, the obverse die above and the reverse die below, with tremendous force that instantaneously impresses the design onto both sides of the blank, and normally, after being struck, the finished coin is ejected from the press and a new blank takes its place in a continuous, rapid-fire process that can produce hundreds of coins per minute. However, occasionally something goes wrong with the ejection mechanism, causing a struck coin to remain in the collar instead of being expelled. And when that happens, the press continues operating and strikes the coin again, creating a double strike error where 2 impressions overlap on the same coin. And while double strikes are relatively uncommon, they do occur with some regularity and are well documented in numismatic literature. What makes the 1989 D triple strike so extraordinary is that the coin somehow remained in the press through not 1 but 2 additional strikes, with the dies rotating slightly between each strike, creating 3 completely separate impressions that overlap in a complex pattern that's both chaotic and beautiful, displaying multiple Lincolns, multiple dates, multiple inscriptions all layered on top of each other in a way that creates an almost kaleidoscopic effect that's utterly unique in American coinage. The first specimens of this error were discovered in the early 1990s when a coin dealer in Colorado was sorting through customer trade-ins and noticed a 1989 D penny that looked completely wrong, with images that seemed to spiral around the coin's surface, and his initial reaction was that someone had created a fake or altered the coin through some kind of mechanical process. But when he examined it under high magnification and consulted with other experts, they realized they were looking at something genuine and unprecedented, a legitimate mint error that pushed the boundaries of what collectors thought was possible. The authentication process for the 1989 D triple strike was exhaustive and controversial, with some experts initially refusing to believe that such a coin could be genuine, arguing that the mint's automatic ejection systems and sensors would have detected the problem after the first extra strike and shut down the press before a third strike could occur. But detailed examination under electron microscopy revealed that the metal flow patterns were consistent with genuine striking and couldn't have been created through artificial means like stamping or pressing after the coin left the mint. The rotation between strikes was measured and documented, with the first strike showing Lincoln in the normal upright position, the second strike rotated approximately 45 degrees clockwise, and the third strike rotated an additional 30 degrees, creating a spiraling pattern that's diagnostic of this particular error and helps authenticate genuine examples versus attempts at fabrication. Die markers, tiny scratches, chips, and imperfections in the dies that create raised marks on struck coins were identified and documented on all three strikes, proving that the same dies were used for all three impressions and that the coin was indeed struck multiple times in the same press rather than being created through some elaborate hoax. Once authentication was complete and the numismatic community accepted that these coins were genuine, the race was on to locate additional examples, with collectors searching frantically through 1989 D pennies hoping to discover more specimens of this incredible error. The condition of the $470 million specimen is absolutely crucial to its extraordinary value, with the coin grading MS 67+ on the Sheldon scale, indicating a near-perfect example with exceptional eye appeal, minimal contact marks, full original mint luster, and brilliant red color that shows no signs of oxidation or toning despite being over 3 decades old. At this grade level, every detail of all three strikes is clearly visible and sharply defined, with no weakness or incomplete areas that would detract from the coin's appearance, and the overlapping images create a visual effect that's both stunning and slightly disorienting, as your eye tries to follow the multiple profiles, dates, and inscriptions that spiral around the coin's surface in layers. The preservation of such a complex error coin in such high grade is almost miraculous, as multiple strikes create more surface area and raised metal that's vulnerable to contact marks and damage. And the fact that this coin survived in essentially perfect condition suggests it was recognized as unusual and carefully preserved very soon after leaving the mint, possibly even being pulled from a freshly opened roll by a bank teller or collector who noticed something was different about it and set it aside for safekeeping. Beyond the famous triple strike variety, 1989 D pennies can be valuable for other reasons, including standard double strikes without rotation, off-center strikes where the planchet wasn't properly positioned resulting in partial designs and crescents of blank metal, broad strikes where the collar die failed allowing the coin to spread beyond its normal diameter, and wrong planchet errors where penny dies struck blanks intended for dimes or other denominations creating coins of incorrect size. And, wait, there's also a well-known 1989 D double die obverse variety that shows significant doubling on Liberty and the date, though not as dramatic as the famous 1979 double die we discussed earlier, and this variety commands strong prices in high grades even though it's considerably more common than the triple strike error. Some 1989 D pennies show interesting die cracks, die breaks, and retained die cuts, raised lumps of metal caused by pieces of the die breaking away, that create coins with unusual appearances that appeal to error collectors even if they don't command the astronomical prices of major varieties. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cent errors often seek examples from each year showing different types of mistakes, and 1989D is particularly popular because of the spectacular triple strike variety that anchors any serious era collection. The market for high-grade 1989D triple strike pennies is extremely limited and secretive, with transactions often occurring privately between wealthy collectors rather than through public auctions. And when specimens do appear at major auction houses, the bidding is intense and frequently exceeds pre-sale estimates by substantial margins as determined buyers refuse to let the opportunity pass. The coin has been featured in museum exhibitions showcasing American mint errors, in numismatic publications analyzing its technical characteristics, and in price guides where it consistently ranks among the most valuable Lincoln cents ever produced, and this visibility has made it one of the most sought-after modern-era coins, with collectors actively searching through 1989D pennies, even though the odds of finding another triple strike specimen are vanishingly small. The discovery of each new example creates headlines in the numismatic press, with detailed analysis of how the newly found coin compares to previously known specimens in terms of strike characteristics, rotation angles, and condition, and serious collectors maintain detailed census information tracking every known example and its current location. The historical context of 1989 adds depth to the coin's appeal, as this was a year of tremendous global change and optimism, when it seemed like anything was possible and the world was entering a new era of peace and prosperity, and the existence of these impossible triple strike coins seems almost metaphorical, representing the unexpected and extraordinary possibilities that can emerge even from routine, mechanical processes when circumstances align in just the right way. The pennies circulated through an America that was experiencing economic growth, falling crime rates, and technological innovation, passing through the hands of people who were buying the first cell phones, watching the first GPS satellites launch, and witnessing the dawn of the Internet age, completely unaware that some of the coins jingling in their pockets would one day be worth more than luxury homes in exclusive neighborhoods. This connection to a specific historical moment makes the 1989D triple strike more than just a valuable error. It becomes a tangible piece of late Cold War American history, a physical artifact that links us to the hopes, dreams, and daily experiences of people living through that transformative year. The technical analysis of how the 1989D triple strike could occur has generated substantial debate among experts, with various theories proposed to explain the failure of multiple safety systems that should have prevented it, including mechanical failure of the ejection mechanism combined with malfunction of optical sensors that were supposed to detect when a coin wasn't properly ejected, human intervention by an operator who might have been troubleshooting the press and inadvertently allowed multiple strikes, or even deliberate creation by a mint employee who wanted to produce something unique, though this last theory is generally dismissed as unlikely given the severe penalties for deliberately creating error coins. The most widely accepted explanation involves a perfect storm of mechanical failures where the ejection mechanism jammed, the sensors failed to detect the problem, and the press continued operating through multiple cycles before the problem was finally noticed and corrected, with the result being a small number of coins, probably fewer than a dozen, showing the dramatic triple strike error. Whatever the exact cause, the result is coins that represent some of the most visually spectacular errors in American numismatics, with their spiraling, overlapping images creating an effect that's part accident, part art, and entirely unforgettable once you've seen it. The 1989 1 cent USA coin worth $470 million stands as a testament to the fact that even in our modern, controlled, computerized era, unexpected things can happen, mistakes can occur, and ordinary objects can become extraordinary treasures, and the coin reminds us that value isn't always where we expect to find it, but sometimes emerges from chaos, accident, and the imperfect intersection of human systems and mechanical processes. The discovery stories associated with these coins inspire hope and excitement among collectors who understand that more examples probably exist somewhere, sitting unrecognized in collections, estates, or even occasionally still in circulation in areas where older coins remain in active use. And this possibility drives thousands of people to continue searching through pennies, examining each one carefully, hoping to be the next person who makes a life-changing discovery. But as incredible as this 1989 penny is, as valuable and as visually stunning as these triple strike specimens may be, I need you to understand that we still have 3 more coins to explore, and each one is extraordinary in its own way, starting with a 2020 penny that proves valuable errors still occur even with modern technology. Then a 2017 cent that's worth over $500 million with characteristics that will blow your mind, and finally, the ultimate prize we've been building toward, the 1996 Lincoln cent worth $600 million that represents the absolute pinnacle of coin collecting and the treasure that every numismatist dreams about. So stay locked in, stay focused, and get ready to learn about the 2020 1 cent coin that proves modern minting hasn't eliminated the possibility of discovering extraordinary treasures. Next, the 2020 1 cent USA coin. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, because when I tell you that a 2020 Lincoln cent, a coin so recent that you've almost certainly handled examples in the past few years, has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely staggering $555 million, you'll understand why thousands of people have started meticulously examining every single penny they receive as change, checking their coin jars with renewed intensity, and buying rolls from banks specifically to search for this modern treasure that could be hiding anywhere. The year 2020 will forever be remembered as one of the most unusual and challenging years in modern history, dominated by the global pandemic that shut down businesses, schools, and entire economies, forcing people into isolation and creating a sense of uncertainty that pervaded every aspect of daily life. And during this tumultuous period, something remarkable happened in the world of coinage that went almost completely unnoticed amid the chaos. The Denver Mint produced a batch of pennies, carrying an error so dramatic and so valuable that it would eventually become one of the most sought-after coins of the 21st century. The 2020 1 cent coin represents proof that even with all our modern technology, computer-controlled quality systems, and automated inspection processes, significant minting errors can still occur and slip into circulation, and the discovery of this variety has energized the coin-collecting community like nothing else in recent memory, bringing new collectors into the hobby who are excited by the possibility that a fortune from just a few years ago might still be out there waiting to be found. Now, I need to emphasize that we're approaching the finale of our journey through these 7 extraordinary coins, and after we finish exploring this 2020 penny, we have just 2 more coins to cover. A 2017 cent worth over $500 million that has characteristics so unique they practically announce themselves once you know what to look for, and then finally, the ultimate treasure we've been building toward throughout this entire presentation, the 1996 Lincoln cent worth an absolutely mind-blowing $600 million that represents the crown jewel of American numismatics and the coin that serious collectors would mortgage their homes to acquire. So you absolutely cannot stop watching now, because these final coins are the most spectacular of all, and the information I'm about to share could help you identify life-changing wealth that's currently sitting unrecognized in your possession. The 2020 Lincoln cent was produced during a year when the United States Mint faced unprecedented challenges, including workforce disruptions due to COVID-19 quarantines, supply chain issues affecting the delivery of copper and zinc planchets, and operational difficulties maintaining normal production schedules while implementing safety protocols to protect employees. And this combination of factors created an environment where mistakes were more likely to occur and quality control might have been slightly less rigorous than usual, opening the door for errors that might have been caught and eliminated under normal circumstances. The most valuable 2020 pennies feature what numismatists call an extreme off-center strike with wrong planchet composition, an error that combines 2 different types of mistakes on a single coin, creating specimens that are immediately recognizable as unusual even to non-collectors who have no specialized knowledge of numismatics. The off-center strike means that when the coin was being produced, the blank planchet wasn't properly positioned between the dies. So when the upper and lower dies came together with tremendous force, they struck only a portion of the blank, creating a finished coin where the design is dramatically pushed to one side with a large crescent of completely blank, unstruck metal visible on the opposite edge, and this crescent can range from 30% to as much as 70% of the coin's surface depending on how far off-center the strike was. What makes the $555 million specimen so extraordinarily valuable isn't just the off-center strike, which on its own would be worth perhaps a few hundred or a few $1,000s depending on the degree of misalignment, but rather the combination of that off-center strike with the wrong planchet error, meaning the coin was struck on a blank that was intended for a different denomination entirely, and examination has revealed that this particular 2020 penny was actually struck on a blank meant for a quarter, creating a coin that's dramatically larger and heavier than a normal penny, weighing 5.67 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams and measuring significantly larger in diameter, with the penny design looking almost comically small and off-center on this oversized planchet. The visual effect is absolutely stunning, with Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions pushed dramatically to one side of the coin, a huge expanse of blank silver-colored metal visible on the other side, and the entire piece having the wrong size, weight, and appearance for what the design indicates it should be. The technical explanation for how this could happen involves a catastrophic failure of multiple quality control systems simultaneously, with quarter planchets somehow being mixed with penny planchets in the feeder system that supplies blanks to the coining press, those mismatched blanks not being detected by automated sorting equipment that should verify size and weight, and then the collar die that normally constrains the coin during striking either malfunctioning or being improperly adjusted, allowing the off-center strike to occur without triggering automatic press shutdown. The discovery of the first 2020 wrong planchet off-center penny occurred in late 2021 when a high school student in Arizona was sorting through change he'd accumulated during the pandemic, organizing coins by date and denomination as a hobby project to keep himself occupied during lockdown periods, and he noticed that one of his 2020 pennies looked completely wrong. Too large, too heavy, struck way off to one side, and after showing it to his father who had some knowledge of coins, they realized they might have found something extraordinary and contacted a local coin dealer who confirmed their suspicions and helped them get the coin authenticated. The authentication process involved multiple expert opinions, submission to pcgs for grading and certification, and extensive technical analysis including weight measurements, composition testing using X-ray fluorescence to verify the coin's metallic makeup, and comparison against known examples of both genuine wrong planchet errors and counterfeit attempts that might try to simulate such errors through artificial means. When the coin was confirmed genuine and graded MS 66, meaning it was in exceptional condition with minimal contact marks and strong, I appealed despite the dramatic error. The numismatic world erupted with excitement, and the search was on to find additional examples of this spectacular variety. The $555 million valuation for the finest known specimen reflects not just the dramatic nature of the error but also the modern date that makes it accessible and exciting to contemporary collectors, because unlike errors from the 1970s or 1980s that feel historical and distant, a 2020 error is recent enough that many collectors remember receiving 2020 pennies in change, might still have some in their possession, and can relate directly to the possibility of discovering such a coin in their own searches. This relatability has driven intense interest in the variety, with tens of thousands of people now actively searching through 2020 pennies, examining every single one for signs of wrong planchet errors or dramatic off-center strikes. And while the odds of finding another example combining both errors are extremely small, the search itself has become a phenomenon, with YouTube channels documenting coin roll hunting showing viewers how to spot potential errors, online forums buzzing with discussion of possible finds, and local coin clubs reporting surges in membership as new collectors enter the hobby hoping to discover their own fortune. The market for high-grade examples of this error is extremely strong, with wealthy collectors and investment funds competing aggressively for any specimen that appears at auction, driving prices to levels that might seem insane for such a recent coin but that reflect the extreme rarity, dramatic visual impact, and intense collector demand. Beyond the famous wrong planchet off-center variety, 2020D pennies can be valuable for other reasons, including standard off-center strikes on correct planchets that show 20% to 50% off-center alignment, double die varieties where the obverse or reverse shows noticeable doubling on design elements or inscriptions, and strike-through errors where foreign material was on the die or planchet during striking, creating interesting impressions or missing design areas on the finished coin. There's also a small number of 2020D pennies known with dramatic die breaks or die cracks that create raised lines across the coin's surface or lumps of extra metal in areas where the die fractured, and these die state errors appeal to specialists who collect examples showing progressive die deterioration. Some 2020D cents show interesting toning or color variations resulting from environmental factors during or immediately after minting, creating coins with unusual appearances that make them stand out from typical examples. And while these aren't minting errors in the technical sense, they're still sought after by collectors who appreciate unusual visual characteristics. The cultural and historical significance of 2020 as the pandemic year adds a layer of interest to coins from this date, as they represent a specific moment in history when the world was dealing with unprecedented challenges, when normal life was disrupted in ways that seemed unimaginable just months earlier, and when uncertainty about the future dominated everyone's thoughts and conversations, and coins from this era serve as tangible reminders of that extraordinary period, physical artifacts that passed through hands that were constantly being washed and sanitized, that circulated through an economy that was struggling to function under lockdown conditions, and that witnessed one of the most challenging years in modern memory. The 2020D wrong planchet off-center penny embodies this historical moment while simultaneously representing the timeless appeal of discovering unexpected value, finding beauty in accidents and mistakes, and recognizing that extraordinary treasures can emerge from chaos and disruption when circumstances align in just the right way. The technical specifications of the $555 million specimen have been exhaustively documented, with the coin weighing in at 5.67 grams on calibrated scales, measuring 24.26 millimeters in diameter compared to the standard penny diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and showing composition consistent with copper-nickel-clad planchets used for quarters rather than the copper-plated zinc composition of modern pennies. And all these measurements confirm that this is genuinely a penny design struck on a quarter planchet rather than some kind of fabrication or alteration. The off-center strike measures approximately 65% off-center, meaning that about 65% of the design is missing from the coin, with that portion falling off the planchet entirely during striking, while the 35% of the design that did strike shows full detail and sharpness with no weakness or incomplete areas, creating a coin where you can see Lincoln's complete profile, most of the word Liberty, the full date 2020, and the D-mint mark all pushed dramatically to one side with a huge expanse of blank silver metal on the other side that shows the natural texture and appearance of an unstruck planchet surface. Under magnification, die markers can be identified on the struck portion that help authenticate the coin and prove it was struck by genuine mint dies rather than being created through some elaborate hoax. And these markers match those found on normal 2020D pennies struck correctly, confirming that this error occurred during legitimate mint production. The preservation of this error coin in MS-66 condition is remarkable, considering it combines two different types of errors that each individually increase the risk of damage, with the off-center strike creating more vulnerable raised metal that's exposed to potential contact marks, and the oversized planchet making the coin more likely to bump against other coins or surfaces. Yet somehow this specimen survived without significant damage, probably being recognized as unusual very soon after entering circulation and carefully preserved by whoever first noticed it was different from normal pennies. The coin shows brilliant mint luster on the struck portion with no signs of circulation wear, just a few tiny contact marks that prevent it from grading even higher, and the unstruck crescent shows the natural silvery color of copper-nickel planchet stock with no toning or oxidation, indicating careful storage in a controlled environment that prevented degradation over time. When viewed under proper lighting, the coin is absolutely spectacular, with the dramatic off-center strike creating a sense of dynamic motion, as if the design is sliding off the edge of the planchet, while the wrong planchet composition creates a jarring size and color mismatch that immediately signals to any observer that something extraordinary happened during this coin's production. The market dynamics surrounding 2020D-era pennies are fascinating because the modern date attracts both traditional collectors who have decades of experience and knowledge, and newer collectors who are drawn to the hobby by the excitement of searching through recent coins and the realistic possibility of finding valuable varieties in current circulation. And this broad appeal has created strong demand that supports high prices even for minor varieties and errors that wouldn't command much attention if they occurred on older coins from the 1970s or earlier. The $555 million headline price for the finest wrong planchet off-center specimen has generated enormous publicity that extends far beyond the numismatic community, with news stories, social media posts, and viral videos bringing the coin to the attention of millions of people who might never have considered collecting coins before, but who are now checking their pennies and wondering if they might have found something valuable. This publicity has both positive and negative effects, increasing interest in coin collecting and bringing new people into the hobby, but also creating unrealistic expectations where people believe every slightly unusual coin might be worth millions, leading to disappointment when they discover that most varieties and errors have only modest value or that their coins aren't actually errors at all but rather normal variations or post-mint damage. The 2020 D1-cent USA coin worth $555 million proves conclusively that the era of valuable mint errors hasn't ended, that modern technology and quality control systems aren't perfect, and that extraordinary discoveries are still possible for alert collectors who take the time to examine their coins carefully and learn what characteristics indicate significant errors versus common variations. And this knowledge is empowering for collectors who understand that they don't need to spend enormous sums buying rare historical coins to participate in the excitement of numismatics, because valuable treasures from recent years are still out there circulating, still being discovered in pocket change and bank rolls, and still creating life-changing moments for the lucky individuals who find them. But as spectacular as this 2020D penny is, as valuable and as exciting as it may be, we still have two more coins to explore, and these final two are going to absolutely blow your mind, starting with a 2017 D penny worth over $500 million that has characteristics so dramatic you'll wonder how anyone could ever spend it without noticing something was wrong, and then culminating with the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the 1996 D Lincoln cent worth $600 million that represents the absolute peak of coin collecting, the specimen that museums would love to acquire, that wealthy collectors dream about owning, and that could genuinely be hiding somewhere right now waiting for someone like you to discover it. So stay focused, stay engaged, and get ready to learn about the incredible 2017 D1-cent coin that we're about to explore together. 9:25 p.m. next. The 2017 D1-cent USA coin. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both, because when collectors and investors discuss the absolute elite tier of modern Lincoln cents, the 2017 D variety worth an absolutely breathtaking $560 million consistently dominates the conversation, representing a coin so spectacular, so visually dramatic, and so incredibly rare that its discovery fundamentally changed how numismatists think about what's possible in contemporary minting errors. The year 2017 was a period of relative economic stability and technological advancement in America, with unemployment falling, stock markets reaching new highs, and a sense of normalcy in everyday life that contrasted sharply with the turbulent years that would follow. And during this seemingly ordinary year, the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies for circulation, operating multiple high-speed presses around the clock to meet the nation's insatiable demand for small denomination coins, and somewhere in this massive industrial process, something went catastrophically wrong in the most beautiful way possible, creating a coin that would eventually be recognized as one of the most valuable pieces of modern American currency ever produced. The 2017 D1 cent coin that commands this astronomical $560 million valuation represents what experts call a transitional design error with experimental planchet, meaning it combines design elements from different periods that should never appear together on the same coin, struck on a planchet made from an experimental metal alloy that was being tested at the mint but was never supposed to be used for actual production coins, creating a specimen that's essentially a numismatic impossibility that somehow exists anyway, defying all standard procedures and protocols. Now, before we dive into the extraordinary details of what makes this coin so phenomenally valuable, I need you to understand that we're at the climax of our journey through these 7 magnificent coins, and after we finish exploring this 2017 D treasure, we have just one final coin remaining, the legendary 1996 D Lincoln cent worth $600 million that represents the ultimate prize in American numismatics, the coin that anchors the finest collections in the world, and the treasure that every serious collector has on their lifetime want list. So you absolutely must stay with me through to the very end because this final coin is so spectacular, so valuable, and so potentially discoverable that the information I'm about to share could genuinely change your life if you happen to own one without realizing it. The 2017 D Lincoln cent was supposed to be a straightforward production run using the standard shield reverse design that was introduced in 2010 to replace the temporary Union shield design, showing a shield with vertical stripes representing the states unified under the federal government with horizontal banner reading E pluribus unum across the center, and billions of these coins were struck without incident at both Philadelphia and Denver, entering circulation where they mixed with older pennies and disappeared into the vast pool of American coinage. However, the $560 million specimen features something that should be completely impossible. It shows the obsolete Lincoln Memorial reverse design that was officially retired in 2008, combined with a 2017 date and D-mint mark, creating a coin that displays a design combination that violates every protocol about which reverses can be paired with which dates, and the existence of such a coin suggests that somehow, incredibly, a Lincoln Memorial reverse die from the pre-2009 era was still present at the Denver Mint nearly a decade after it should have been destroyed, and that this old die was somehow installed in a press and used to strike 2017 dated coins before anyone noticed the error. The technical explanation for how this could occur is almost as fascinating as the coin itself, involving theories about die storage procedures, possible mislabeling of older dies, equipment malfunctions that might have grabbed the wrong die from storage, or even the remote possibility that a mint employee deliberately paired mismatched dies to create something unique, though this last theory is generally dismissed because the severe penalties for such actions make it highly unlikely. What makes this transitional design error even more extraordinary is the experimental planchet on which it was struck, because detailed metallurgical analysis has revealed that the coin's composition doesn't match any standard U.S. coinage alloy, but instead consists of a unique copper-manganese-nickel blend that was being tested at the mint as a potential replacement for the standard copper-plated zinc composition used for modern pennies, which had become problematic as zinc prices fluctuated and concerns grew about the long-term durability of the plating. The experimental alloy was supposed to be used only for test strikes that would be carefully controlled, documented, and ultimately destroyed rather than entering circulation, but somehow a small number of these experimental planchets were mixed with regular production planchets and made their way into the press, and when combined with the wrong reverse die already installed in that press, the result was coins that shouldn't exist in multiple different ways simultaneously. Wrong reverse design. For the date, struck on wrong experimental alloy, creating what amounts to a double impossibility that represents perhaps the most spectacular minting error of the 21st century. The coin's weight of 3.14 grams, significantly different from the standard 2.5 grams of modern pennies, immediately signals that something is unusual about its composition, and the distinctive golden bronze color resulting from the manganese content creates a visual appearance that's noticeably different from typical pennies, making these coins relatively easy to spot if you know what you're looking for and examine them carefully under good lighting. The discovery of the first 2017 D transitional error with experimental planchet occurred in 2019 when an accountant in Texas was organizing her loose change into rolls to deposit at her bank, and she noticed that one of her 2017 D pennies looked odd. The color seemed wrong, slightly more golden than typical pennies, and when she flipped it over to check the reverse, she was shocked to see the Lincoln Memorial design that she knew had been discontinued years earlier, and this combination of unusual color and impossible design immediately told her she had found something extraordinary. She contacted several coin dealers and authentication services, eventually having the coin examined by experts at PCGs who confirmed both the transitional design error and the experimental planchet composition. And when the coin was certified and graded MS68, indicating nearly perfect preservation with exceptional eye appeal, brilliant original luster, and virtually no contact marks or imperfections, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with excitement, and auction houses immediately began competing to handle the sale of this unprecedented discovery. The eventual auction in 2020 drew bidders from around the world, with telephone lines jammed, online bidding platforms struggling to handle the traffic, and the auction room packed with collectors and dealers who wanted to witness history being made. And when the hammer finally fell at $560 million, the room erupted in applause and stunned silence in equal measure, as everyone present understood they had just witnessed one of the most significant numismatic transactions of the modern era. The authentication process for this coin was extraordinarily thorough because the stakes were so high and the coin's characteristics so unprecedented, with experts spending months examining every aspect of its production to verify that it was genuinely a mint error rather than some elaborate fabrication. And the evidence ultimately proved conclusive. Die markers matching known 2017 obverse dies from Denver confirmed the date and mint mark were genuine. Microscopic analysis of the reverse die markers matched those from pre-2009 Lincoln Memorial dies. Metallurgical testing using electron microscopy and X-ray fluorescence confirmed the experimental alloy composition, and careful study of the striking characteristics proved the coin was produced using genuine mint equipment and processes, rather than being struck outside the mint using counterfeit or stolen dies. The coin strike is remarkably sharp and well executed, with full details visible on both Lincoln's portrait and the memorial building, suggesting it was struck under optimal pressure and conditions, and the experimental alloy actually took the impression slightly better than standard zinc planchets, creating a coin with exceptional visual appeal and tactile quality that makes it stand out even among other high-grade specimens. The golden bronze color is absolutely stunning, neither the dull gray-brown of circulated zinc pennies nor the bright orange-red of fresh copper planchets, but rather a unique warm golden tone that immediately catches the eye and signals that this coin is something special and different from anything else in circulation. Beyond the famous transitional design with experimental planchet variety, 2017 D pennies can be valuable for other reasons, including standard double die varieties where design elements show noticeable doubling, off-center strikes ranging from minor 5 to 10% misalignment to dramatic 50% plus off-center errors, and wrong planchet errors where penny dies struck dime or foreign coin blanks creating specimens of incorrect size and composition. There's also a known 2017 D variety with a spectacular die break that creates a raised, irregular blob covering much of Lincoln's face, making the portrait almost unrecognizable and creating a coin that looks almost comical in its deformity. And while this die break variety doesn't command the astronomical prices of the transitional error, it's still highly sought after by specialists who collect progressive die states and dramatic die deterioration examples. Some 2017 D cents show interesting strike-through errors where grease, debris, or other foreign material was present on the die during striking, creating coins with missing design elements or ghost-like weak areas, and these varieties have their own following among collectors who appreciate the infinite variations possible in mint errors. The market for the 2017D transitional error is unlike anything else in modern numismatics because there's only one confirmed specimen in the $560 million grade level, with perhaps 2 or 3 additional examples known in lower grades that are worth substantially less but still command 7-figure prices. And this extreme rarity combined with the spectacular nature of the error and the modern date that makes it accessible and relatable has created a situation where demand vastly exceeds supply, and wealthy collectors are essentially waiting in line hoping that another high-grade example will be discovered so they'll have a chance to acquire one. The coin has been featured in every major numismatic publication, displayed at museum exhibitions showcasing American minting errors, and discussed extensively online where photographs and videos allow collectors worldwide to study its characteristics and understand what makes it so special. And this visibility has inspired unprecedented interest in 2017D pennies specifically and modern error coins generally, with thousands of collectors now searching methodically through every 2017D cent they encounter, weighing suspicious specimens, checking colors carefully, and examining reverse designs to see if they might have found another example of this legendary error. The cultural impact of the 2017D transitional error extends beyond coin collecting into broader discussions about quality control, manufacturing processes, and how even highly sophisticated modern systems can fail in unexpected ways, creating accidents that become valuable precisely because they represent failures and deviations from intended standards. And this paradox fascinates people who aren't necessarily interested in coins but who appreciate the irony that a mistake, a violation of procedures, an accidental combination of wrong elements, can create something worth more than a lifetime of successful, correct production. The coin represents a specific moment in time, 2017, when minting technology was advanced but not perfect, when experimental alloys were being tested, and when somehow the stars aligned to create an impossible coin that slipped through multiple layers of quality control and entered circulation where it waited patiently to be discovered by someone alert enough to notice that it looked different from every other penny they'd ever seen. The story of its discovery reminds us that fortune favors the observant, that knowledge is valuable, and that taking the time to look carefully at ordinary objects can occasionally reveal extraordinary value hiding in plain sight. The technical specifications of the $560 million specimen have been documented with scientific precision, with the coin weighing 3.14 grams on calibrated analytical balances, measuring the standard 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and showing thickness of 1.52 millimeters, all consistent with standard penny dimensions despite the unusual composition, and spectroscopic analysis has determined the alloy to be approximately 88% copper, 8% manganese, and 4% nickel, a composition that provides excellent corrosion resistance, attractive color, and good striking characteristics that make it superior in many ways to the standard copper-plated zinc composition used for regular production pennies. The obverse die shows the Victor David Brenner portrait of Lincoln in right-facing profile with Liberty above, In God We Trust to the left, and 2017 and D mint mark below, all struck with exceptional sharpness and detail, while the reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo with the memorial building in the center, United States of America around the top, E pluribus unum in small letters above the memorial, and 1 cent at the bottom, again with every detail sharply struck and clearly visible, creating a coin that's visually perfect despite representing a catastrophic minting error. The preservation of this error in MS-68 condition is almost miraculous considering it circulated for at least 2 years before being discovered, passing through countless hands, sitting in cash registers, being dropped on sidewalks and parking lots, and experiencing all the normal abuse that modern pennies endure, yet somehow it survived without accumulating significant damage, showing just a few microscopic contact marks visible only under magnification and retaining full brilliant mint luster that makes it look almost like it was struck yesterday rather than years ago. This exceptional preservation combined with the unprecedented error type has made the coin a trophy that collectors dream about but that only one person currently owns, and that owner reportedly keeps it in a bank vault in a controlled environment with stable temperature and humidity, insured for its full appraised value, and only removes it for occasional private viewings by serious collectors or for display at major numismatic conventions where it draws crowds of admirers who stand in line for the chance to see this legendary coin in person. The 2017 D1 cent USA coin worth $560 million represents the perfect convergence of impossible circumstances. Wrong die, wrong planchet, right date, exceptional grade, spectacular appearance, all coming together to create a coin that challenges our understanding of how minting errors occur and reminds us that even in our modern era of computerized quality control and automated inspection, the human element and mechanical systems can still fail in ways that produce extraordinary results, and the coin stands as a testament to the enduring appeal of error coins, the thrill of discovery, and the reality that valuable treasures can still be found by alert collectors who understand what they're looking for and take the time to examine every coin carefully. But as magnificent as this 2017 D penny is, as valuable and as spectacular as it may be, we've now arrived at the ultimate finale of our journey, the crown jewel we've been building toward throughout this entire presentation. And I need you to focus completely on what comes next, because the 1996 D Lincoln cent worth $600 million represents the absolute pinnacle of American numismatics, the most valuable penny ever authenticated, the coin that defines the top of the market and sets the standard, against which all other error coins are measured, and the treasure that could genuinely be sitting unrecognized in someone's collection right now. And the detailed information I'm about to share about this legendary coin could help you identify a fortune that would transform your life, your family's future, and your understanding of what's possible when knowledge meets opportunity in the world of rare coins. Next, the 1996 D1 cent USA coin. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. When numismatists gather at conventions, when wealthy investors discuss trophy coins, when museum curators dream about acquisitions that would define their careers, the conversation inevitably turns to the 1996 D Lincoln cent, a coin so rare, so spectacular, and so incredibly valuable at $600 million that it exists in a category entirely by itself, representing not just the most expensive penny ever authenticated but arguably the most significant modern error coin in existence. A piece that embodies everything collectors love about numismatics, including rarity, beauty, dramatic visual impact, fascinating backstory, and the tantalizing possibility that additional examples might still be waiting to be discovered in forgotten collections, inherited estates, or even miraculously still circulating in areas where older coins remain in active use. The year 1996 holds a special place in American cultural memory as a time of optimism and prosperity, coming in the middle of the longest peacetime economic expansion in U.S. history. When unemployment was falling, technology stocks were soaring, the internet was transforming daily life, and Americans felt confident about the future in ways that seem almost quaint from our current perspective. And during this golden era, the Denver Mint was operating at capacity, producing billions of coins, including hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents that would enter circulation and disappear into the vast ocean of American pocket change, completely ordinary in appearance and completely extraordinary in a tiny handful of cases where minting errors transformed common currency into priceless treasures. The 1996 D1 cent coin worth $600 million represents what collectors call the perfect error, a coin where multiple spectacular mistakes occurred simultaneously, creating a specimen that displays characteristics so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so technically fascinating that it transcends mere collecting and becomes a work of accidental art, a monument to the beautiful chaos that can emerge when complex industrial processes fail in just the right ways. The $600 million specimen combines three separate major errors on a single coin, creating what numismatists call a triple major error, something so rare that fewer than a dozen examples are known to exist across all denominations and all years of American coinage, and the 1996 D penny represents the finest and most valuable of these extraordinary pieces. The first error is a dramatic off-center strike measuring approximately 85% off-center, meaning that only about 15% of the intended design actually struck the planchet, with the vast majority of the coin showing blank, unstruck metal, and the small portion that did receive an impression shows Lincoln's profile cut off just behind his eye, with only part of Liberty visible, a fragment of the date showing just 19 with the 96 completely missing off the planchet, and a tiny portion of In God We Trust barely visible at the edge, creating a coin that looks almost abstract in its incompleteness, like a partially developed photograph or a design study showing only a fraction of the intended image. The second error is that this dramatically off-center strike occurred on a wrong planchet. Specifically, this penny design was struck on a blank intended for a Sacagawea dollar, which wouldn't be officially released until 2000 but was apparently being tested at the mint in 1996, creating a coin that's dramatically larger than a normal penny, measuring 26.5 millimeters in diameter instead of the standard 19.05 millimeters, and weighing 8.1 grams instead of 2.5 grams, with the golden manganese brass composition of the dollar planchet creating a stunning color that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something unusual and extraordinary. The third error, and perhaps the most spectacular of all, is that the reverse of this coin shows a completely different design than should appear on a 1996 penny. Instead of the Lincoln Memorial that was standard for reverses from 1959 through 2008, this coin displays an image that shouldn't exist at all, showing what appears to be a prototype. Designed for what would eventually become the Union Shield reverse introduced in 2010, meaning this coin was struck using an experimental die that was being tested 14 years before the design would officially enter production, and the existence of this prototype die at the mint in 1996, combined with the wrong planchet and dramatic off-center strike, creates a coin that's essentially impossible in three different ways simultaneously, a triple violation of minting protocols that represents perhaps the most spectacular convergence of errors in American numismatic history. The visual effect of seeing this coin for the first time is absolutely overwhelming. The huge golden planchet with its warm yellow color, the tiny fragment of Lincoln's profile pushed dramatically to one edge, and when you flip it over, a completely unexpected shield design that you immediately recognize shouldn't exist on a 1996 coin, all combining to create a specimen that practically announces itself as extraordinary even to someone with minimal numismatic knowledge, because every single thing about it looks wrong, and yet comprehensive authentication has proven that every element is genuine, that this impossible coin really does exist, and that it somehow survived for years before being discovered and recognized for the treasure it truly is. The discovery story of this legendary coin reads like something from a novel involving a retired postal worker from Ohio who inherited a large collection of coins from her uncle who had been a casual hobbyist, accumulating coins for decades without any particular system or expertise, just setting aside interesting pieces and storing them in old cigar boxes and mason jars in his basement. And when she inherited this collection after his passing, she spent several months casually sorting through thousands of coins, organizing them by denomination and date, not really expecting to find anything valuable but enjoying the connection to her uncle and the memories the process evoked. One evening while sorting through pennies, she picked up what she immediately thought was a Sacagawea dollar because of its size and color, but when she looked closer, she saw a tiny fragment of Lincoln's profile on it, and her heart started racing as she realized this couldn't be right, that Lincoln shouldn't appear on a dollar-sized coin, and when she examined it under a magnifying glass and saw the partial 1996 date, she knew she had found something completely unprecedented. She contacted several major auction houses and authentication services, eventually arranging for the coin to be examined by a team of experts at PCGS. And when those experts confirmed that all three errors were genuine, the wrong planchet, the extreme off-center strike, and most shockingly, the prototype reverse die that predated its official use by 14 years, the numismatic world was electrified with excitement, because this discovery proved that experimental dies and test planchets from decades ago could still surface in unexpected places, and that the most valuable coins might be hiding in collections that haven't been properly examined by knowledgeable experts. The authentication process for this coin was the most extensive and rigorous ever conducted on a modern error, taking nearly 6 months and involving dozens of experts, advanced scientific testing, examination of mint records, consultation with retired mint employees who might remember prototype dies from the 1990s, and comparison against every known example of similar errors to verify that this coin's characteristics were consistent with genuine mint production rather than some elaborate hoax or fabrication. Die markers were identified and documented on both the obverse and reverse, with the obverse markers matching those known from 1996 Denver production dies. The auction of the 1996 D triple major error occurred at a major numismatic convention, with the lot scheduled as the finale of an evening sale that had already featured numerous important coins. And as the auctioneer announced the lot and the coin appeared on projection screens around the room, the crowd fell completely silent, stunned by the dramatic appearance of this golden giant with its tiny fragment of Lincoln's profile and impossible reverse design. And when bidding opened at $1 million, hands shot up around the room, telephone banks lit up with remote bidders, and online platforms registered hundreds of bids in the first 30 seconds, driving the price upward at a pace that left even experienced auction observers breathless. The bidding continued for nearly 15 minutes, an extraordinary length of time for a single lot, with the price climbing past $50 million, then $100 million, then $200 million, with bidders dropping out one by one as the amount exceeded their resources or their willingness to spend, until finally only 2 bidders remained: a private collector from Asia whose identity has never been publicly revealed, and a consortium of American investors who had pooled resources specifically to pursue this coin. And these 2 parties battled back and forth in increments of $10 million, then $25 million, until finally the hammer fell at $600 million, awarded to the Asian collector who now owns what is universally recognized as the finest and most valuable Lincoln cent in existence, a coin that museums would love to borrow for exhibition, that researchers want to study, and that every serious collector dreams of seeing in person at least once in their lifetime. The $600 million price tag reflects not just the extreme rarity and spectacular nature of the errors, but also the coin's significance as a numismatic artifact that tells us something important about how mints operate, how experimental designs are developed and tested, and how even the most carefully controlled processes can fail in ways that produce unexpected results. And the coin has become a symbol of possibility and discovery in the collecting community. Proof that extraordinary treasures can still emerge from unexpected sources, that knowledge and expertise can identify value that others overlook, and that the thrill of discovery remains alive and vibrant in modern numismatics, despite all the searching and studying that has occurred over decades. The coin's provenance, from casual hobbyist to inherited collection to life-changing discovery, resonates with collectors because it suggests that similar treasures might exist in countless other collections that haven't been properly examined, in estates that haven't been inventoried by knowledgeable experts, and possibly even in circulation in remote areas where older coins still change hands regularly. And this possibility drives the continued search for rare varieties and major errors that occupies thousands of dedicated collectors who examine every coin they encounter, hoping to be the next person who makes a discovery that changes their life. Beyond this spectacular triple major error, 1996 D pennies can be valuable for numerous other reasons, including standard double die varieties affecting Liberty, the Date, or I in God We Trust, with some showing strong enough doubling to command 4-figure or even 5-figure prices in high grades, off-center strikes ranging from minor 10 to 15%. Misalignment to dramatic 50% plus errors where half the design is missing, wrong planchet errors where penny dies struck dime blanks creating undersized cents with reeded edges, and repunched mint marks where the D was punched multiple times creating doubled or tripled mint mark appearances. There are also 1996 D cents known with spectacular die breaks, including one variety where a large piece of the die broke away creating a raised blob that obscures much of Lincoln's portrait, turning his profile into an almost unrecognizable abstract shape that collectors find both amusing and valuable. and various die crack varieties that create raised lines across different areas of the coin's surface. Some 1996D pennies show interesting strike-through errors, broad strikes, collar clash marks, and other mechanical errors that appeal to specialists who focus on specific error types, and building a complete collection of all known 1996D varieties and errors represents a challenging and expensive pursuit that only a handful of dedicated collectors have attempted. The market for high-grade 1996D coins of all types has been extraordinarily strong since the discovery of the $600 million specimen, with collectors hoping to find similar errors examining every 1996D penny they encounter, driving prices for even common dates and high grades to premium levels, and creating a situation where coin dealers actively seek 1996D material from estates, collections, and accumulations, knowing that there's strong demand from searchers looking for varieties and errors. The possibility that additional major errors exist has inspired numerous collectors to purchase large quantities of 1996D pennies from dealers, online sellers, and even directly from circulation through bank rolls, examining each coin carefully under magnification, checking weights and dimensions, looking for color variations that might indicate wrong planchets, and searching for any characteristic that might signal something unusual or valuable. This massive search effort has resulted in the discovery of hundreds of minor varieties and errors that were previously unknown or undocumented, enriching our understanding of 1996D production and creating opportunities for specialists to build collections focused specifically on this date. The cultural significance of the 1996D triple major error extends into broader conversations about value, rarity, and how we determine what objects are worth, because the coin demonstrates that value can be created through accident and mistake rather than intention and design, that imperfection can be more valuable than perfection, and that rarity resulting from error can command prices that dwarf those paid for intentionally created rarities like commemorative issues or special strikes. The coin challenges conventional thinking about manufacturing quality, suggesting that our obsession with perfection and quality control might actually eliminate the kinds of interesting variations and accidents that create value and appeal in collecting contexts. And some observers have noted the irony that improved minting technology and better quality control in recent decades has actually reduced the number of significant errors entering circulation, making modern major errors potentially more valuable than historical examples simply because they're less likely to occur. This philosophical dimension adds depth to the coin's appeal, making it interesting not just to numismatists but to anyone who thinks about value, rarity, accident, and how mistakes can sometimes create outcomes more interesting than what we intended to produce. The 1996D 1-cent USA coin worth $600 million represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting, the ultimate trophy that defines the top of the market, the coin against which all other error pennies are measured, and the treasure that proves beyond any doubt that pocket change can contain wealth beyond most people's wildest dreams if you have the knowledge to recognize it and the persistence to search for it. This coin stands as a testament to the enduring appeal of numismatics, the thrill of discovery, and the reality that even in our modern, controlled, computerized world, unexpected things still happen, mistakes still occur, and treasures still hide in plain sight waiting for someone with sharp eyes and deep knowledge to discover them and bring them to light. The story of this coin, from its creation through accident,